Hi there, this is Dan, meeting you guys again from the Audubon Center for Birds of Prey. And today for our lunch and learn, we're going to talk about one of my personal favorite topics. It's called taxonomy and phylogeny. It's how animals get their classification and their scientific names. So if you've ever been to a zoo and you've seen a sign that has like italicized writing and a lot of weird looking Latin on it, that's what we're talking about. For example, the hippo is called Hippopotamus amphimus, or why the gorilla that you see at your local zoo has the name gorilla, one of my personal favorite scientific names, if I do say so myself. But we want to go grossly simplify this because this could be like a college level discussion. So first we're going to talk off with Carl Linnaeus. He was the guy back in the early 1700s that determined that the modern day way back then of classifying species was completely outlandish and made no sense. For example, Solanum calum inerma heratio folis pinnatus incessus. That was a tomato. That was utterly pointless and way too long and convoluted for Carl Linnaeus and for the scientific community. So he went about changing that. But his first system used morphology, so how animals looked and how plants looked compared to each other, which in his system would rank birds and butterflies in the same category because they can both fly. If you've seen them, you know that birds and butterflies are not closely related. The whole reason for doing this classification, the whole reason for taxonomy, is to help better categorize and group things together. And phylogeny is understanding the evolutionary relationships between different species. So to put this into perspective, I have this wonderful example. Every single living organism on the planet is broken down into categories, into taxa. So they start off with domain nowadays, but you can also start off with kingdom, then you go to phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species to help differentiate where one species is versus another species. There is a couple of mnemonic devices to remember this, like the one of King Philip came over for good spaghetti. We're going to break this down and use an animal as an example. What animal, you ask? What a good question, random audience that's listening. Let's use a bald eagle. So we start off with the kingdom, Animalia, which is where we're going to start for bald eagles. We can identify that they are at least an animal. Then to break it down into phylum, because bald eagles have a spinal cord, they're going to go here to chordata. So we've eliminated all sorts of invertebrates and arthropods, like insects and cuttlefish and things of that nature. Then we go to the class of having this as the class Aves for all birds. A lot of these names I'm probably going to mispronounce because they're Latin. The reason we use Latin is because it's a dead language. No one uses it as a language for their own nations. And back in the Renaissance period and medieval period, monks would use Latin as a language of knowledge. And then we go to our order. So this is differentiating which birds are we talking about. Since we want to classify a bald eagle, they have those talons, they have those hooked beaks. We're going to go to Accipitiformes. So we have broken down to Accipitiformes, which is most birds of prey. This is where eagles, this is where hawks, harriers, ospreys, kites, they all live in this group. And then we want to break it down into the family to get more directly to eagles themselves, to differentiate eagles from hawks and kites. So we're going to go to Accipitridae, which is going to be the birds of prey that have very strong hooked beaks, more eagle-like. And then for the genus, we're going to go to Haliades, which is going to be sea eagles. And then for the exact species, getting down to the bald eagle itself, the H here is for the Haliades from beforehand, Then leucocephalus translates into white head. In Old English, bald meant white, so that's why the bald eagles get their name, bald eagle. But in the Latin form of it, leucocephalus for that white head. That's how you classify one single species. So the whole reason why scientists do this is so we can better understand how animals are related to each other. When you see the scientific name for an animal, it's going to have the genus name as capitalized and the species name as lowercase to help showcase the relationship between different animals. So there's going to be different species of gorillas, but they're all in the genus gorilla, with a different species name following it up. That's why for a lot of times you'll see it as capitalized, and they're all italicized just to keep consistency throughout the scientific community. Going back to the gorillas, they have the scientific name gorilla for Western lowland gorillas, which is a subspecies. So the following scientific name will be the subspecies of that species. So to help us better understand the relationships of these birds of prey, so we have our class of aves, and then we've broken it down into the orders of different birds of prey and what they're closely related to. So each of these meeting bars are showing closer relationships than to the other ones. So the reason here we have Insipidriformes and Insipidriformes again is because the knowledge in the scientific world about the relationship between birds keeps changing. This group is the New World vultures. So like our black vultures, turkey vultures, California condor, those birds for a while were viewed more closely related to storks. But in 2015, 2016, more recent molecular and DNA data showed that they were a more ancestral offput of the other birds of prey. Again, I'm doing my best to grossly simplify all of this. You will see that there is a myriad of phylogenetic trees to show the relationships of the almost 2 million species that are currently identified, and scientists keep finding new animals. Moving on, more ancestral diverging, we have our Cariniformes. This group has the African Seriama, which is classified as its own individual bird of prey, and they're going to be more closely related to Falconiformes. Falconiformes, these are going to be our falcons and our caracaras. So peregrine falcons, American kestrels, and our American caracaras. I love them. But our falcons are going to be more closely related to passerines and parrots. So these are going to be parrots, pigeons, doves, things like that. They are going to be more genetically closely related than they will be to your eagles or hawks. All of this is to help us better understand how animals have diverged and adapted over the millions of years that they have been around. Especially considering these guys first started to adapt about 100 million years ago, when they started to diverge from the dinosaurs. So, I hope you guys have understood and learned a little something today. I could do this for an incredibly long time, but I feel like you guys would stop listening after about 5 minutes of this. So if you want to learn more about this, I highly encourage you to keep learning about this. So we hope you guys have had fun today, and see you next time.